Meet Jane and Joe. Each is headed on a 2-week vacation to Australia and Indonesia with their friends. Jane buys a $46 GeoBlue Voyager Choice Plan, $1 million medical, $500,000 evacuation, no deductible, no co-insurance. Joe is young and healthy. He decides he can use his domestic insurance if needed. While in Bali, Joe and Jane are each struck by a car. Each is taken to the nearest emergency room, where they are diagnosed with an open fracture. At this point, they have 2 very different trips. The local doctor says each of them needs surgery, which should be done in Singapore to avoid complications. Joe doesn't know what his insurance will cover because they're closed on weekends. Joe calls his sister for money to cover the costs of the medical evacuation to Singapore. Jane calls GeoBlue for help. GeoBlue's chief medical officer works with a local doctor to medically evacuate Jane to Singapore. They each make it to Singapore and have the surgery performed. Joe finally reaches his domestic insurer. His treatment is covered subject to his deductible, but he has to pay up front and file a claim. His transportation and evacuation costs are not covered. Joe feels alone, overwhelmed, and scared. In contrast, GeoBlue covers all of Jane's medical costs and even pays $2,300 for her husband to fly to Singapore for emotional support. GeoBlue checks in regularly to make sure she is receiving good care. Several days later, Joe is ready to leave the hospital. The doctor says his leg needs to be elevated during the flight home, which means Joe needs to upgrade to a business seat. He maxed out his credit card to pay for the evacuation and now has to contact his parents for more money. Emotionally drained, Joe returns home, while his friends continued on to Brisbane. Jane had to take it easy and curtail some activities, but she continued on to Brisbane. $3.27 per day covered all Jane's care, transportation, and ongoing physical therapy in Brisbane. ER surgery and hospitalization, $11,750. Ground ambulance, $250. Air ambulance, $35,000. Flight change and business class seat, $924. Total costs, $47,924. Jane is a savvy, prepared traveler. Joe isn't a smart traveler. Thanks to GeoBlue, Jane paid nothing for her treatment and was able to enjoy the rest of her trip. Joe had to pay $46,000 in medical expenses and had to cut his vacation short.